This is the Wealthy Wednesday Show with your host, Luci McMonagle, a money manifestor, coach, and public speaker who's on a mission to helping you create more wealth in your life and business. This show will inspire and empower you with various topics and has expert guests. Let's welcome your host, Luci McMonagle.
Welcome to the Wealthy Wednesday Show. This is your host, Luci McMonagle. The Wealthy Wednesday Show is for creative women entrepreneurs who are ready to make an impact on the world, have more money, more freedom, and more joy. We bring fabulous expert guests to you in order for you to have tips, strategies, resources, and so that you can improve your life through creativity, through abundance, and through expert knowledge. Today I have a very special lady, and she is so incredibly phenomenal. Her name is Shannon Presson, and she is a speaker, a writer, an NLP trainer, and she is certified through the IFC organization, and she does this incredible, unique way of coaching. She combines Equine Experiential Learning, which is a fancy way of saying that she partners with horses in her coaching practice. She specializes in deep transformational work for entrepreneurs and creative professionals who are ready to take their work and their leadership to the next level, but needs a little assistance in getting out of their own way. So let's give a warm welcome to Shannon. Welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you, Luci. It's so much fun to be here. I'm really looking forward to our time together.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you being so patient on my diction. I am very grateful for you to do that. And it's really about having fun on the Wealthy Wednesday Show and showing entrepreneurs that it's okay if you do make mistakes. And it's okay if you pick yourself up, brush off your knees, and say, hey, I'm doing the best that I can. So you have such a unique combination, and I absolutely love that you combined horses with your coaching and training, plus you do neuro-linguistic programming, which is a short for or long term for NLP. So can you tell us a little bit on what inspired you to do the work that you do?
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur. I left home when I was 16, so I've been on my own pretty much my whole life. And I learned at an early age, probably from my relationship with my parents, that I was much better off being my own boss than I was taking direction from others. And so I've always had a curiosity. I've always been interested in how things work. I've always been a lifelong learner. And I built two pretty successful careers. I was a corporate event planner for about 20 years. And I retired when I was 50 and kind of got bored. And my husband is a computer programmer. And for any of your audience who's familiar with the tech industry, those guys, those women, they're brilliant. But they all tend to kind of get around and talk shop and complain about things. So one day after the weekly Friday afternoon jam session, I said to all of them, I said, I tell you what, I'll start a company. You can all come work for me. And they were like, awesome. So I thought, okay, how do I do this? So I went and I started this IT company, and we did really well. In 2007, we were at $2 million of revenue, getting ready to double our income. And then in 2008, when the economy caught up with California, we went from 2 million to zero in probably less time than it will take you and I to conclude this interview. And I know that you are an absolute brilliant person when it comes to money and wealth and wisdom, so you can appreciate the culture and the shock to one's system when 1 minute one has a $2 million business and the next minute they just have $2 million in expenses.
Wow, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. That causes some serious roadblocks in some people.
Yeah, absolutely. Because here I was having this lifestyle and now I didn't have the income to support it. And, and I asked myself that important question that I think everybody asks at some point, which is, do I love what I'm doing so much that I'm willing to build it twice. I'm willing to go back and start it all over again and create it from the ground up. And the truth was, I didn't really love it that much the first time. It was just an opportunity that presented itself. So I asked myself, well, what is it that I love to do that I would do even if I didn't get paid for it, but I actually do well enough that other people would consider investing in having me do it for them? And the one thing that I've always had a superpower for is the ability to see what's not working. Sometimes when you're in a relationship with your husband and you're pointing out what's not working, that's not necessarily a gift. But when it comes to those of us who are trying to create something extraordinary in our own lives, it is a cool capacity. And so I thought, I'm going to look at coaching. I think that's something that I would really enjoy doing. And so I got certified. I built a website. I printed my business cards, hung out my shingle, and I couldn't get a client to save my soul. It was crickets. But what was interesting is that people loved what I did. I had no shortage of people who would pick up the phone and say, hey, Shannon, I'm really struggling with this issue. Can you give me some guidance, or do you have any tips? And that was happening all the time. But when I had to put a dollar figure on that, when I had to say to people, I would love to help you, let's schedule a session, this is what, the cost is, all of a sudden the energy just dropped out, the bottom was gone, nobody wanted, it was just messy. You know how you get when you have to put a price on it. Exactly. And it was the first time in my life that I realized that I had to put a price on my wisdom, that I had to actually decide what value my wisdom was worth in the world. And when I got really honest, deep down inside, I didn't really think it was worth anything. And, when you look at the track record, building two really successful businesses, well, what was different? Well, what was different then was I was in the marketplace. I was selling something that had a lot of known values to it. There was a kind of a range for what people paid in certain industries. But coaching 10 years ago was pretty much a wide open field. And even now, there are so many different ways to approach it. And for me to say, wow, what I know, what my wisdom is worth this money, was a huge light bulb moment for me. And I think it's what helped me understand that I'm not the only one that's struggling with this. And if I'm going to really help my ideal clients, the entrepreneurs, the creative professionals, the people that are taking their passion out into the world and doing something that they know in their heart of hearts is going to make a difference, I'm going to have to solve this in myself in order for me to go out and help other people.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And so many creative women entrepreneurs who are on the path of wanting to take their wisdom, take their knowledge, bring it out there, but they fall into the same trap. They have this mental roadblock, this thing that's preventing them from moving forward, because really deep down, they would give the wisdom away anyway. But now it's like, well, I'm not a nonprofit. So how were you able to really see how to move that primary roadblock that you had, and how do you see the primary roadblock for other women creatives who want the abundance, want to bring the knowledge, want to bring the skills into the world, but they just can't figure out what that roadblock is or how to get over it? Could you give us a little insight on that?
Well, of course, the first thing I would say is hire a coach.
Exactly.
Get some help. Because the truth is it's kind of a two-point question. The original motivation for me was I was really clear this was in my way. I had a huge track record of success. And to me, in my mind, it was like, this is just one more business. This is something I care about, that I want to put my energy into. Why is this not working? So the very first point that I want to share with your audience is you have to take 100% responsibility for your own outcomes. If you're in that place of going, well, I'd be really successful, but, people don't really want what I have, or, I'd be really great if I had, a whole bunch of money that I could bankroll my investments or whatever. But ultimately, we all have to come to the place of what is within me that's causing this disconnect. What is what's the story I'm telling myself that's actually creating my reality, right?
Yes.
So the second piece of that, of course, is the understanding that it's really difficult to see what's in your way. It's a little, like I tell people, it's like reading the label when you're inside the jar. You're doing something the best way you know how, but it's not necessarily the best way to do it. So what changed for me was this understanding of, once I realized that I had a story, and the story that I had inside of me was, nobody cares what I have to say. Nobody really wants what I have to offer. And when I drilled that down with my coach, what I realized was, at the core, those very core levels for all of us, there was a feeling of not good enough. You know, I don't deserve it. You know, a lot of things that we struggle with are, everyone deserves it but me, or I have to make sure everyone gets what they need before I can ask for what I want. Or that fear of, oh my gosh, if I stand up, if I show up, if people see me with my true colors, they're going to chop my head off. You know, I'm going to be a moving target. And then the last one, that place of, well, if I'm really successful, that's going to be threatening to my spouse or to my family or to my peers. Who am I hanging out with? And if all the people I'm hanging out with are kind of like not at my level or not aspiring to what I'm aspiring to, they're not going to feel real comfortable when I'm doing things that are going to put me in that place. So what really changed for me was, one, recognizing I had a story, and then two, making a firm commitment that I was going to do whatever it took to get to the bottom of what was in my way.
That is so precious, to really understand that. First, you have to recognize it, because we can't even do anything about something we don't even acknowledge or recognize. And second, which is the most crucial step for anything, is make the decision. And that is really, really important. So please, ladies, write that down, look for it, and then acknowledge it and make a decision.
Yeah. And, you know, the second piece of that is, the first part is to take 100% responsibility. I know that something is blocking me. I know I have what it takes to succeed. I don't know what's in my way. I'm going to get help. I'm going to get perspective. I'm going to get a coach or a mentor or a sponsor. The second piece, which is the other part, which is just as important, we are so prone to criticality and judgment. We make ourselves wrong all the time. You know, I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. Oh, Luci's so much. Look at her. She's got her own show. She's so smart. I could never do that. And so we judge ourselves, we compare ourselves, and we are critical to the nth degree. And what I would invite our listeners to try, so criticality and judgment is the either or. It's like, I'm right, I'm wrong, I'm good, I'm bad, it's black or white. To move out of either or into both and. And both and is what I call wonder and curiosity. And the way it shows up for me is, wow, isn't this interesting? I notice that whenever I'm in an enrollment conversation or a selling conversation with my ideal client, before I even open my mouth, I've already predetermined what that other person could or wouldn't pay. I've lowered my price, or I've already decided that they can't afford me, and now I'm making apologies. Isn't that interesting? I wonder, so curiosity, I wonder, what is it in me that's making the decision for other people? Because when I'm deciding what that other person can or can't afford, I'm not even acknowledging their own right to choose. So going into wonder and curiosity allows us to say, oh, isn't this interesting? Every time I do this, I notice that I have this certain behavior, or I notice a certain voice shows up, or I notice I start to feel a certain way. I wonder what that's about. And by putting ourselves in the question, not in the answer, but simply in the question, I wonder what my trigger is, we invite our unconscious to answer for us. So we're in that space of, okay, now I've asked the question, I'm going to let it sit. I'm not going to answer it. I'm just going to say, isn't this interesting? And then allow the wisdom to pop up. Pretty powerful stuff.
That is extremely powerful. And so often we berate ourselves, we beat ourselves up, we tell ourselves all of these different stories about why this and why that, or sometimes we even look outside of ourselves and blame the economy, or blame this or blame that. And a lot of times we have to understand that we have to take full responsibility. And it doesn't mean take full responsibility to beat yourself up. That's not what that means. It means take full responsibility and become curious. Start exploring, ask questions, and then really start digging into your subconscious, because a lot of these beliefs, a lot of the stories, they didn't come from you in the first place.
Right. Right. You know, I always in my practice and in my programs, I always talk about the 4 stories that are within all of us, basically, which is our challenge story. So where are we at in this moment? As Gilda Radner used to say, what's the sand in our bathing suit? What's not quite right? Where the irritation is. And then the second one is the dream story. So if everything was perfect, if the passion and purpose fairy touched me on the forehead with her magic wand and said, hey, you can have whatever you want as long as you can name it specifically, then the question is, well, what specifically do I want? And a lot of people say, well, you know, I just want to help people, or I want to make a lot of money, but that's not really specific. You know, how do you want to help people? What would it look like to help people? What would you experience? And how much money? Because a lot of money to you, Luci, may not be a lot of money to me, or a lot of money to me may not seem like a lot of money to somebody else. So not only do we have to ask specifically how much, but what's the money for? Like, if I make a lot of money, what does that get for me? How will that change my life? What will I do with the money? And this is really important, because when we fall into the third story, which is the yeah, but story, that is always an indication of the gap between where we are and where we want to go. And if we don't make a really compelling dream story for ourselves, we're not going to have the incentive and the motivation to do the deep work that requires us to clear that yeah, but story out. So one of the ways that I work with clients that is super, super helpful, I have this really cool quiz called the Dream Story Quiz.
Yes.
And they can, if your audience is interested, they can go to dreamstoryquiz.com, and there's actually 5 sections that people can go through and rate themselves in terms of what's the vision that they have, what's their mission statement, what's the money piece, what is my mindset, what are my goals, and actually be able to say, oh, wow, I need to get a little more work on that dream story, or, oh gosh, look, I've got some money issues. Maybe I should call on Luci on this because this is not really working for me. And it gives people a chance to really get deep dive into what they're trying to create, because once we start to articulate our dream, that's when the voices show up going, who do you think you are? You want to be a fill in the blank? Well, let me tell you why you can't have it. And then once we have that, we know where the work is. Because honestly, creating the dream isn't as difficult as peeling back the layers of what's in the way of the dream. You know, that old beautiful story about how Michelangelo created the statue of David. And he said, I just chipped away at everything that wasn't him. And that's what we have to do to make our dreams come true. The 4th story, of course, is the one that I hold as the whole reason why I do what I do, which is what I call the unexpected story. And the unexpected story is not the story that we are in charge of. It's the story that unveils itself when we clear away the restrictions of the yeah, but story. And the unexpected story always begins with the words, oh, in my wildest dreams, I never imagined that this was going to happen. It's synchronicity, it's coincidence, and it's the universe's way of partnering with us to make our dream story come true. Because here's the thing. No matter what we dream about, no matter what inspires us, it's a small fraction of what we're truly capable of. So
that is so true. That's so very true. And thinking about the dreams that I've had just a few years ago, where I could only see maybe 100,000 women that I was going to impact. And that was a couple of years ago. And now I couldn't even count them all. When I see my vision, my dream, my unexpected aha during my moments of meditation and really getting in touch with my soul purpose, how to bring this into the world. So you've talked about the 4 pillars of prosperity and a little bit on how to master that with the stories. Can you tell us just a little bit more about how exactly it impacts us for creating a more wealthy life?
So I think all of us would agree that in order to build anything lasting, we have to start with a firm foundation, right?
Yes.
I remember when I was renovating my house, in the first year, almost $100,000 went into structural improvements. And it was so frustrating because people were like, wow, you're doing all this work on your house. Let's come over and look at it. And it's like, okay, here's my slab and here's my foundation and here's my new roof. But it was important. And the 4 pillars of prosperity are what I consider the 4 points that we have to have firm foundation on if we're going to create the ultimate unexpected story. The first one is presence. How do you show up as a leader? And when we work with horses, we work a lot on presence, because we always tell people, if you can walk into an arena with a 1,200-pound animal that doesn't speak your language, and you can learn to co-create a relationship that allows you to come together and create a dance, as horses and people can do, you can go into any boardroom, any venture capitalist, any situation and hold your own. So presence, how do you show up in the most authentic way? How do you stay in this moment grounded in your own power? So presence is the first pillar. The second pillar is perception, which is, what is your belief around what's possible, and what are the beliefs that you hold about yourself, and how do they impact you? So many times we have beliefs that serve us. If I believe that I have a mission that's going to impact thousands of people, and that motivates me to do the work that I need to do, that's an awesome belief. But if I have a belief that nobody hears what I have to say, and I'm trying to create a job as a professional speaker, I'm in trouble, because that's going to impact my capacity to make a difference. So perception is the second pillar. What are my beliefs? What's the mindset I hold? And are they in alignment with my essential truth? The third one is all about sovereignty. And sovereignty, when I think of sovereignty, I always think about the early castles. And, you'd go across the drawbridge and there was this beautiful courtyard. And the boundary of the castle, the moat around the castle, signified, this is my space. This is my kingdom. And I rule within the borders of that kingdom. Now, I can lower the drawbridge, I can invite you in, but I have the sovereignty to decide what is me, what is you, and where we can come together. And so often, especially for women, we run into this huge history. We're such service providers. We care so much about being of service, but we get caught in this trap that we believe that everyone else deserves to be happy before we do. Like, we have to take care of everyone else. We have to be there for everyone else. Or we quietly, in our own mind, make decisions for other people. We decide that that other person doesn't want what we have to offer, or isn't going to be interested. And so we don't show up and we don't speak our truth. And then the world suffers because our gifts are not shared. And as somebody really valuable told me one time, when you die, everything you are dies with you. And if you don't share it and you don't spread it around, when you go, it goes. So you have an obligation to use those gifts in the world in a way that's in alignment. And sovereignty is also an important part about giving and receiving in equal measure. So we're great givers. We love to give. We love to be of service. But how are we receiving? And when we start looking at that concept of receiving, we go into the fourth pillar, which is what I call nourishment. And nourishment isn't just what you put in your mouth. It's how do you feed yourself? Who do you hang around with? How do you receive? How do you accept? How do you take extreme self-care of yourself? Do you rest when you're tired? Do you say no when it's not in your best interest? And what are the spiritual beliefs that you hold? Not necessarily your religion, but is there something greater than yourself that you can turn to and get guidance from? So to me, those 4 pillars, when they are firmly grounded and they're firmly built up, provide a huge platform for our own personal power to go out and create prosperity in whatever way we want.
That is so important. And really understanding that as women, we want to nurture, we want to give, we want to help, we want to empower other people. But a lot of times we have been taught, or we created this belief system that after everybody else is taken care of, then maybe I will give something left for me.
Right.
And what I truly believe, and what a lot of the creative entrepreneurs are now discovering, is when you take extreme self-care of yourself, then you start creating a reservoir of energy, of magic that overflows. Right. And as this overflows, it naturally takes care of those around you that are meant to be taken care of. And it makes it a lot easier when you can really look at self-care and nurturing yourself first as a means to having more for other people.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Right. And I mean, that's just one pillar, obviously. And, Shannon has a beautiful way of expressing the 4 pillars of prosperity. So if you missed that, go back and re-listen to that part, because that was perfectly put. And, she is so incredible on the way she is able to really help balance how to work with horses, how to stand in your own power. And Shannon, you were mentioning that you have this beautiful free quiz so that individuals can start getting in touch with their dream story. And can you retell us about that, just in case somebody missed it earlier? And then I just have a couple of more questions, and then we're going to be done, because the interview is going that fast.
Sure. So you can go to www.dreamstoryquiz.com, and it will take you through a series of questions to allow you to rate yourself 1 to 10 where you are on the spectrum around your mission, your passion, your mindset piece, the money, your goals. What are the things that need to be in place? All of these things need to be in place in order for you to make your dream story true, to make it not a dream story, but your current reality. And it's an awesome quiz. It takes about 4 minutes, and we'll email you the results and give you some suggestions on what you can do to take the work further. So yeah, highly recommended. It's fun. I love quizzes.
Yes, absolutely. And this quiz will really empower you to get to your dream story. And if you've been a creative entrepreneur and you've been a little bit afraid of dreaming too big, this dream quiz is really going to help you break through that roadblock that you have in yourself. But if you're driving, please make sure you pull over.
Yeah, don't drive.
Don't do it when you're driving. So, Shannon, you've talked a lot about you coach with horses, and just imagine having this presence with this 1,200-pound animal and how you can bring that into the boardroom. But can you tell us just a little bit more? What exactly do you do with horses in your coaching practice? Because somebody might be interested in working with you, but they're like, I'm not sure about the horses there. So could you explain that a little bit so everybody has a great understanding?
Sure, that's a great question. Yes, I don't have a horse in my office. I would pull back the curtain there, but there's no horses back there. It's just a wall. The reason that horses are so powerful is that they being prey animals, they have a highly sensitive nature and they read energy as information. So when they are in a herd, they are always constantly checking. They want to know, am I safe? And they want to know who's in charge. Am I to be the leader? Is somebody else the leader? And so when we do work with horses, one of the things that is so useful about it is when we are in the position of entrepreneur or professional and we are out to make an impact, we're out to take our best selves into the world, we sometimes have this story in our head that says, I should be a certain way. Who I am, as I am, that's not really good enough, or people won't really accept me. So we put on the persona, right? How many times you've been in a conversation with someone that's got that happy face going on, and there's a part of you that's going, gosh, you know, I'm watching her and she seems like she's okay, but I'm feeling something. Well, horses do something we don't do. They don't make up stories. They simply observe. They see another horse in the pasture and the horse startles and the horse says, ooh, could be a lion in the grass. I'm running like crazy. And they take off and they run until they get far enough away and then they stop and they go back to grazing. What they don't do is they don't slap themselves on the forehead and go, oh, I can't believe I'm so stupid. That was just a plastic bag. Oh my God, what was I thinking? I can't believe that. And then the rest of their lives, they're just constantly referencing that moment. They simply have the experience. And so when we work with them, we learn from them because we stay in the moment. But the most important thing is if we go into the arena with the horse and we have the happy face on, we have the, oh, I want to show all my peers that I can do this, I'm a professional, I'm so smart. But inside, we're uncertain, we're confused, maybe a little scared, could be kind of bored. The horse is instantly going to pick up that disconnect. And because he doesn't feel safe, because you're not as you appear, he's going to go somewhere else and study the dirt or eat the grass or pretty much ignore you because he knows that you're not present. So when we work with people, we teach them to be authentic. And whatever that is, to be afraid, to be scared. But that's not the whole part of it. There's lots of parts and pieces. I'm going to be launching a program at the end of the month called Radical Courage. And it's actually a 10-week online program that we're going to be going through the 4 pillars of prosperity and these 4 stories that we tell. And there won't be any horses on the call. But what they teach us is learnable in any situation. But come on, let's face it, you know, spending a day out in nature, being with horses, that's kind of cool. I like it.
Absolutely.
But it's not an integral part of, you know, of the process. People can absolutely work with me and never see a horse, but I guarantee you'll be intrigued.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds really exciting. And your program sounds pretty exciting too. And so does your quiz, your dreamstoryquiz.com. So this has been such a phenomenal show with you, Shannon, being my guest and explaining the 4 pillars of prosperity, explaining the roadblocks to mindset and the stories, the 4 stories that people hang on to that's preventing them from really tapping into their full creativity, tapping into their full truly abundant self and tapping into their ability to truly move forward. So thank you for being on the show. And one last question is there anything else that you would like to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think if I could say anything, it's when you listen to that voice in your head that is telling you its truth, right? You know, it's the voice back here, it's the voice up here. I want you to just ask yourself a question. Who does that voice belong to? Because my voice comes from here, and that voice does not.
Fabulous, fabulous. And that is so crucial. Thank you for being on the Wealthy Wednesday show. This has been incredible.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Luci. It was really a joy to spend time with you.
Fabulous. So I'd like to thank you as my audience for listening to the Wealthy Wednesday show. I produce this every single week for you so that you will have the tips and strategies from the top experts and the top individuals in their field, and so that you can truly move forward in your life, in your business, to have more freedom, more joy, and more happiness. So if you would like to get a hold of me personally, you can go to my website at lucimcmonagle.com. That's LuciMcMonagle.com. And I have a very special gift for you on my website, so check that out. And also, if you're interested in sponsoring the Wealthy Wednesday show, we are now opening our doors to receive sponsors for the Wealthy Wednesday show. Please get a hold of me on my website at lucimcmonagle.com. There's a contact form, and let me know that you're interested in sponsoring so that you will be able to have your message broadcasted over the 20,000 listeners that the Wealthy Wednesday show is presented to. So until next time, abundant blessings.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Wednesday show with Luci McMonagle. That's on every Wednesday. Join us next time for more inspiration and empowerment from various topics and expert guests. To personally contact Luci McMonagle, visit LuciMcMonagle.com. That's LuciMcMonagle.com. Until next time, many blessings.